Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Now, this is a really special episode for me. This is actually the very first episode I recorded. So, you're going to see a very different setup. You're going to see a very different camera, an entirely different mic, and I have a very special guest as well. Now, Kristian is somebody that I admire tremendously within the Film Talk community. He's got a great YouTube channel as well, and he's just a stellar guy. He's so knowledgeable with movies. He's just a great guy all around. Now, I went ahead and asked him if he wanted to be on the podcast. At this point, the podcast did not exist. Now, this was just a shot in the dark, and honestly, I thought he was going to say no, but he said yes, and I was so excited to have him on. Now, what you're about to see is really special. This was my first chance at interviewing somebody, and Kristian was fantastic, honestly. I loved his answers and just would love to have him on again, but this time just to really just talk movies and dive into all crazy stuff. I appreciate the support from all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the show. All right, guys, we are back with episode 2, and we have a very, very special guest. I'm a fan. I'm going to say this right now. I'm a big fan. His name is Kristian, aka the 1 Minute Critic. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Really, I'm a fan too, believe it or not. So I'm happy to be here. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm glad you took the time out. I know it's hard being a dad. When do you get to watch movies? When do you get to do any of that stuff as a dad, right?
It's always after everyone's asleep and you struggle staying awake to watch it.
Absolutely. Actually, speaking of that, it was midnight. I just couldn't fall asleep. I told my wife, I'm like, I can't go to bed. So I'm going to watch a movie. And she's like, okay, do you want to watch it in the room? I said, no, because you're not going to fall asleep and you got to be up early. I don't want to do that to you. And she's been kind of feeling a little off. So I'm like, I'll go downstairs. I went on Amazon Prime. I'm like, I'm not going to watch one of my millions that I have unopened that I probably should be watching. Why would I do that? And I come across a little film from 1989 called Society. And when I tell you that I felt so dirty watching this movie downstairs while my 3 girls all were upstairs sleeping, I hope to God that these girls don't come down, or my wife, because she's like, what the hell are you doing? We got to talk. That movie, have you seen that film?
I have. It's been a few years, but I recall it's about the parents who are up to some weird stuff, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I so feel you on the watching it in the middle of the night and waiting for someone to come down, because sometimes I'll be doing the same and my wife will come down and be like, "What are you watching?" And tell her.
Yeah.
There was one night in particular I had never seen Indecent Proposal, and if you've seen that movie, the scene between her and Woody Harrelson, the love scene, is pretty like hot and heavy. And of course, that's the one moment my wife comes down like mid. What are you watching?
Nice.
I was like, come on.
Yeah, that's how it happens, man. And then we look like the bad guys. We look like the pervies.
Exactly.
No.
You just take one.
Yeah, definitely.
Movies, like you, a huge part of my life and have been my entire. That's one of the things I remember most at my home. It was movie watching with the family. So my dad, I grew up in the early 80s, so VHS was the big thing. We had hundreds of VHSs, and if you remember, we're talking recorded VHSs. So each VHS had 3 to 4 movies
yeah.
per VHS.
Yeah.
I mean, we had tons and tons of movies. To this day, there's a couple of movies in my mind when someone talks about the movie, I don't see the movie cover in my head. I see that old dingy VHS with that particular handwriting on it. I know exactly because I've seen it so many times. Um, so yeah, it was my dad who really got me into it. He didn't really shelter us from things to watch. There were a few movies he wouldn't let us, but most of it was whatever. And to our benefit and our curse, like many nightmares were had. To this day, he's a huge movie nut. I mean, his physical media collection, I would say, is close to, if not bigger than mine. But he has primarily DVD, and he's held strong to those, and hundreds, maybe thousands. Yeah, and that's how me and my brothers, I have 2 brothers. I'm the oldest of 2. We would always relate over movies. We were the kids in school telling our younger friends about Predator, and they're like, "What's that?" And we'd tell them about it. "Oh, that's so cool." We'd invite them over to our house and we'd corrupt them, and their parents would get mad. So I was always that kid. But no, I mean, and I try to impart some of that to my kids. They're a little younger, and I'm probably will shelter them a little more than my dad did with us. So that's one of my joys in life, is to share my favorite movies with my younger kids and to see their raw, pure reaction to those same movies I love. It's a beautiful thing, as I'm sure you know.
Absolutely. What do we call that feeling? The real movie fans that get joy out of showing somebody a movie. Like my wife is I was blessed because my wife did not watch any movies. Like her idea of movies was like maybe once a year with her girlfriends. She's Australian, so they got different movies there, or they didn't get certain movies, that sort of thing. But she would watch like maybe like one or two comedies, romantic comedies a year, if that. And that was the extent of it. Like she hasn't seen much of anything. Now, her brother is older. He's about 4 or 5 years older than her. And he, when he was younger, would show her certain movies. So there are some things that she knows about, but it's because of her brother. Because her brother's
Hmm.
like into film and like he and I geek out all over this stuff. But what is that? What is that joy? What do we call that? Because there really is something to say when you pop in a movie and you're like, you need to sit down and we need to watch this. Put your freaking phone away. I don't want to see any like chatter. Here we go.
All I know, I don't know what you want to call it, but all I know is I think I actually enjoy that more than watching a movie for the first time,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. And to this day, my wife, she hates watching movies that she hasn't seen with me because she's like, "You always give something away, like just by looking at me." She's like, "When you're looking at me, I know something's coming." She's like, "You always go."
Oh no.
She calls it the Christian face. I'm like, oh, I don't mean to spoil it, but I'm just so hyped to see how she's gonna react.
That's funny.
So it's one of my favorite things to do, and that's kind of something that all my friends have always teased me with. There's one instance. This was a while ago. It was when Logan, not Logan, sorry, even further. The Wolverine came out in theaters. I saw it 3 times in one day,
What?
and I saw it once by myself, but I had promised my brother I'd go see it with him opening day. So I went and saw it, and I was like, "Ah, crap, he's gonna be pissed." So I went and saw it with him, acting like I didn't see it before. I was like, "That was awesome." And then I think later that night, I went on a date with some girl, and we saw the same thing. And I love it, man. And it's an okay movie, but I just love watching these
Yeah.
people react to the moments of these movies.
Did you ever tell your brother?
Oh yeah, I did
Okay.
actually.
Okay. Because I say if
He's like
not, we're gonna
he
send
actually
this.
He actually did. He knew. He was like halfway through when I was looking at him. He's like, "You've seen this already, dude."
So this look that you give has been going on since the beginning of time.
It has. It has. It's a curse.
My wife always asks me, she'll go, um, let's watch a movie. And I'll be like, yeah, yeah. What do you want to watch? What are you in the mood for? And I bring her seven options always. It's always seven. And I have all different genres. And then within the genres too, I'll have like, if I have foreign, I'll say, listen, these are subtitled. So maybe let's not do these tonight because I don't do dubbed ever, always subtitled.
Good. Good man.
So
Good man.
she's got to read, she's got glasses on. And if she's too tired, I don't want her to, I just don't want her to go ahead and get all like sleepy or whatever. And I don't want her to fall asleep if I really want her to watch a movie. Right.
Hmm.
So then I'll give you these options. And then we always end up watching a movie that I've already seen. And she'll go like, but haven't you seen that movie already? I said, yeah. So let's watch something that you haven't watched. I was like, no, we got to watch this one. It's so good. It's so good. So
Yeah.
she's the same, like she gets it. Um, and again, I was blessed because she loves the conversation after the movie. She loves the breakdown. She loves to talk about it and then hear my thoughts on it and then add my perspective to certain things because it makes her see things differently and also helps her for the next time she's viewing something else to add what she's learned from this viewing into the next one. And it's
Totally.
amazing to see. It's like, holy shit, like I'm not trying to do this, but this is just how I am. I'm a nerd at heart. Like I love this stuff. So I'm always going to be like, what did you think of that? Did you understand the connection between why he said what he, like whatever the case is? And she's like, oh my God, I didn't see it that way. The one thing she hates though that I do is I won't spoil it. Like if we go to a movie and we're at the movies, I've never seen it before, and I realize what's going on, I always have to look at her and say, I know how this is going to end. and then I'll type it in and I'll save it, and then I'll show it to her at the end. And 9 out of 10 times, I hate to say it, but it's obnoxious. It's so obnoxious.
That's funny,
But she's like, "How do you know that? Like that's, you know." But I guess I mean, you spent your childhood watching movies. Your dad brought you up in them, and the same thing with me. To give you a little bit of history, excuse me, my father, um, he wasn't in my life, but his way of being in my life, or his way of showing up, if you will, was by mailing out movies on VHS, about 3 or 4 recorded on each VHS, and sending me a little care package back to Costa Rica once a month. It's because he was living in the States. So he would,
man.
record whatever movies he saw on Cinemax, Showtime, HBO, whatever it was. And then I'd receive that package. And here's little freaking 6-year-old me. It says Cobra or Cliffhanger. It's hilarious because my mom would allow these things. However, anything that had to do with like sex, nudity, no, no, like boobies, nope. But guy getting his head sawed off, no problem.
Fine.
Body counts, freaking Chuck Norris, all of his movies, he's literally, what's that one where they attack Invasion USA, right?
Yeah, them all.
I mean, dude,
Just body count.
I was watching these. It's
That was my that was
like this is what I grew up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my childhood too, man. Like Rambo, Predator,
Yeah,
Commando,
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah,
Just blood and guts.
yeah. I definitely shouldn't have been watching these movies, but my love for film came from, my father's absence, if you will. So him not being around, but still sending me these movies was a way for me to connect. And he always sent me Sylvester Stallone movies. And Sylvester Stallone, funny enough, this is what a child does, but I subconsciously I was doing this. I didn't realize this till many years later. I would view Sylvester Stallone as a father figure. And I've looked up to him. And then when I learned about his upbringing, his whole story, how he came to be who he is, so inspiring. So add that on
Oh
top
my
of it, and
gosh.
I'm like the biggest Sylvester Stallone fan. Like I geek out anytime anything of his. And then when I see him fail,
I knew you had good taste, man. In
we'll
fact, you know what
see.
I watched last night?
Here
Just
we go.
last night, I watched Bullet to the Head, man.
Oh yeah, it's
That's
a good one.
classic
That's a good
Stallone,
one,
man.
and underrated, underrated. Jason
Very
Momoa playing a
underrated.
bad
Oh
guy.
yeah,
You
he
know,
is so good in that.
yeah,
Momoa, especially, yeah.
yeah, and nobody really talks about that one. It just kind of
No,
got. That was also at a time where Sylvester Stallone's career was kind of like in a weird place. He was doing some really like offbeat stuff, and then he was doing a lot of direct to
Mhm.
video. And I don't had Expendables come out at that point. I don't think
I
it had.
think I think either came out that same year or I have to look. It was real close either
Yeah.
way. Okay, so Expendables was 2010, Bullet to the Head was 2012. So that
Oh
was
wow.
he
Okay.
did have Expendables.
Okay. It's weird that it kind of went under the radar a little bit because he did Escape Plan. What after that?
Yeah, and
Right.
that's another one that I was surprised went so under the radar because you had the 2 dudes in the same movie. I
You
don't
had
understand why that didn't get more love.
everything that everybody ever wanted. They've been asking for
Yeah.
this for
That
years.
was what guys like you and I fantasized about as children, you know, when
Yeah.
we had our GI Joes, it was Arnie and
Yeah.
it was Contra, you know? That's what Contra is. It's Arnold and
Oh,
Sylvester
deep
Stallone.
cuts. Deep cuts. That's the closest to Contra we could ever get for anything.
Right, right.
Because Arnie's fallen off. Arnie's
Yeah, I agree. When, Stallone kinda made his comeback, it was in that movie Rocky Balboa, and man, he kicked ass in that
yes.
movie because he got
Yes.
incredible shape, and I was on my feet through half that movie in the theater. Arnold's comeback was like it was that small town sheriff, Johnny Knoxville movie, you know? It was
Hmm.
okay, but he didn't come back with a big slam like Stallone
No.
did.
Although he did do Sabotage, and I personally love Sabotage.
That's good too.
Many people did not
Totally.
like it. Very bleak ending.
Not a very Arnold role, though.
No, no, but that's what I liked about it. He still was, that vicious like brute, but there were more vicious brutes around him. I think there was a lot of
Yeah.
characters in that movie. But yeah, it was a dirty movie. That was a filthy movie, and he just was not likable, and I love that. He also did
Mhm.
Maggie, was it? The
That
one about the
zombie
plane.
movie?
Is that the zombie movie or the plane crash one?
I'm not sure. One of them's the daughter who's a zombie?
Yeah, I think that's Maggie. I'm talking about the plane crash movie, and I'm confusing the two names. But the one where it's based on a true story where two planes collide. Um, I believe it was in Europe, and he is the father of
Right,
yeah. So,
that was yeah.
so he did that drama, which was interesting to see him do. So he did try to do some stuff. It just wasn't received well because you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you think I'll be back. So
Is that one called Aftermath?
yes, yes, that's what it is.
IMDb, baby.
Nice. Nice. I thought you were looking at porn. Anyways, just kidding. Back to the subject of you and your brothers. So, was there ever any particular film that you could say brought the family together? That one movie that everybody watched, and even now, if you even think of that movie, it brings you back to that time.
I can think of 3, and one is a very obscure one, I'll talk about that one later, but first one was Young Frankenstein. We
Okay.
would watch that as a family every Halloween, at least, season or more, and of all the Mel Brooks movies, we watched them all, but that one we watched, like, constantly, and dad, mom, brothers, we just all had a ball with that movie, so much fun. The other one, and it's my favorite movie of all time, is Predator. Mom wasn't so much into that one, but us boys and dad would watch it all the time. We would dress up in our army fatigues in our backyard and pretend, all the whole nine. And the third one is an old canon movie with the Barbarian brothers called The Barbarians. And I don't know if you've seen this movie,
Never even heard of it.
but something about it is just it's these two bodybuilder twins from they kind of had a hot minute where they were famous for 2 years and they were in like 3 movies. But it's a really campy spin on kind of Conan the Barbarian, but it's funny. The brothers banter with each other. It's on Amazon Prime right now, and Tubi, I think. So you should check it out. But it is so fun, and I don't think many people even know about it, to be honest.
I love the fact that you have those movies. Do you still like get to see your brothers much? Do you guys still have, whenever you guys do see each other, do you get to go to the movies or do you get to just chill and watch a movie or throw in Predator, for example?
I mean, I we all lived in the same state up until 2006, and then we all kind of spread out. There's 3 of us. My youngest is still in Utah, and my middle brother's in Minnesota. But we are constantly we have our own like group chat, constantly saying, "Hey, remember this movie? I watched this," or we're giving each other recommendations. When we do travel and see each other, a movie is definitely on the to-do list, whether it's in the theater or we pop in an old classic and reminisce. Because as you know, when you've seen a movie with a loved one many, many times, you have a lot of memories associated with those times you watched it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we get the chance to do that, and it's so great, and it's perfect too because if on those occasions we don't really have anything to share that's new in our lives or anything going on, we can always fall back onto movies and keep that conversation running.
With a movie like Predator, movies that are close to my heart, that are close to your heart, those actors are more than just actors. Like they're part of the childhood. They're part of our childhood experience, right? So a movie like Predator, when Carl Weathers recently passed, like, does that make you feel something for somebody that maybe never met? Like, explain that versus like the average person just going, oh man, the guy from you know um Predator died.
100%, man. Like, especially the actor like Carl Weathers, he was in a lot more than Predator.
Yeah.
A lot of really iconic movies.
Action Jackson.
Um, Action Jackson,
Great
Happy
movie.
Gilmore,
Yep.
even and the Rocky so many good things. But what you say is absolutely true. When he passed away, I definitely felt more like a family member died. than just another actor. You know, you hear about actors dying all the time. It's sad, but a lot of times you're like, "Oh yeah, he was that one guy in that one movie." But when it's an actor like Carl Weathers, where it was an entire era, like your whole childhood, it hits a lot different.
It does. It does. Recently too, I rewatched The Mask. The actor in The Mask, and I hate that I don't know his name, but that's kind of the whole point of it. So I never knew his name, but I recognize him in all the movies he was in. And he always played a bad guy. And in The Mask, he was the guy with the long hair, blonde long hair. I also
Right.
recognize him from one of my favorites, Cliffhanger. So I was like, huh, this is an actor. Like, I wonder what he's up to. And I looked it up, and he passed away. He passed away at a very early age. He passed away in his 40s. That was like, damn. Like, this is an actor that, like, I almost feel guilty for not knowing his name. Like, it's crazy, and it's somebody that I never knew, but
There's a lot of actors that you know their face so well, but you don't know their name.
yeah,
You know their roles for the and this is falls in the same era of, all these movies we're talking about in Die Hard. And it's one of the most memorable scenes of any action movie I've ever seen. They're setting up, waiting for the police to come in, gets hunkered down behind a glass case, and he looks down and he sees some candy bars. He reaches in and grabs them. And for the longest time, me and my brothers always saw him in every movie he was in. Big Trouble in Little China, Last Action Hero. And we always referred to him as the Candy Bar Man. That was his name. It's the Candy Bar Man.
yeah,
And he was a total badass. His name is Al Leong, by the way.
okay,
I found that out to my 20s. That's when I actually was like, you know what? The Candy Bar Man needs to be retired. Let's call this man by his actual name. You feel bad because they contributed so much, even though their roles weren't huge.
yeah.
They were a cog in that magic that you
Yeah.
loved.
I've been on this kick lately of watching old movies that I haven't seen in years. Like, I just want to revisit them. This week I saw Tremors 2 again. I rewatched the very
Yes,
first
sir.
Pirates of the Caribbean. I haven't seen that since 2003. And in both of those movies, I saw again two other actors that I've known and seen in other movies that are so memorable. In Tremors 2, the very beginning, the Spanish actor in that movie, he's in every movie that I remember from my childhood, and in every single movie that he's in, he always dies. Okay? And I don't know his name, but if you've seen The Lost World Jurassic Park, he's the only Spanish guy that gets crushed by the T-Rex when they're all running in line and he gets stuck on the T-Rex's foot. In Predator 2, it's that same guy. He's always the bad guy and he's always getting killed. And then in Pirates of the Caribbean, one of the pirates on the Black Pearl, um, I was like, holy shit, that's Kano from Mortal Kombat, who was also in Deep Rising. And unfortunately, rest his
Right.
soul, he passed away. So that was like, just seeing that, I'm like, fuck. These
Mhm.
actors, I wish like there was a way. Sometimes you just want to tell them, hey man, this might not mean shit to you, but I just want you to know you're part of my childhood, and I look forward to any time you are on the screen. And
And you wonder if they realize that. If they realize they've had that
right.
impact on people.
I don't know about you, but I go to a lot of cons, a lot of cons, and most of the times when I go and I meet an actor, I'm usually having them sign a very obscure film that they are just not expecting. You
And
know,
they always appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. Like, he's not an obscure actor, but I met Mads Mikkelsen years ago. I brought Valhalla Rising.
Yes.
Okay. Very serious. He's amazing presence. I mean, you walk in that room and you're like, holy shit, like he just has this look about him, right? Didn't crack a smile once. That man was stone cold killer, but very respectful.
Mhm.
Pleasure to meet you. Blah, blah. This is accent, right? Beautiful accent. And I come up to him and I have my Valhalla Rising um, Blu-ray and I present it to him. And this is on a Saturday. So he already had one day. And I think he was going to be there on Sunday, but he's like, you're the first person to bring me this one. And I said, really? I was shocked. Personally, I was actually shocked. And he was like, you liked it? I said, I love it. I absolutely love it. And he's like, well, thank you. I had a great time. He's telling me he has a great time. He decided to talk a little bit more than he was like talking. I noticed it with all the other
Right.
people. And after the conversation, he goes, do you want me to personalize anything you want me to say? And I said, actually, if you could write your favorite line from that movie, that'd be great. And he looked at me and started laughing his ass off. Because if you've seen the movie, he never utters a word in the
He doesn't.
movie.
Yeah,
He's laughing his ass off. And I was like, yes, got this man to laugh. This was a moment that he and I had. I hope he remembers it. Thank you so much.
that's
I
great.
don't think I even got a picture with him. I just got the autograph and that was it. But like,
That's great.
these like moments where it's like, I want to tell these people, you're so appreciated. Thank you. And now, like, the way that films are today, the way that they are digested is so different from when you and I were growing up. There was allure to cinema. There was mystery. There was excitement. Even watching the Pirates of the Caribbean this week, they don't make them like that anymore. Like the
They
music,
they
this,
they almost feel like disposable now.
yeah,
Like it's a one use
yeah,
movie. Like you watch it, okay, next.
very forgettable. Like
Yeah.
there isn't, and it sucks, man. It really sucks because you go and say, well, what's happening? Like what's going to happen when it comes to the quality of these movies? The days of big budget movies, but that actually deserve that budget, like your Pirates of the
Yeah.
Caribbean, your Independence Day movies, films that like took you somewhere.
That aren't also based on a pre-existing
Yeah,
IP or
yeah,
something.
yeah. You can shit on Armageddon and Michael Bay all you want, but that movie was freaking amazing.
No, yeah.
Like, fuck, I could watch Armageddon all day long. The R-rated cut, of course, Criterion Collection. If you guys haven't, now you know.
And what a cast. Like at the time that wasn't like an A-list cast, but
No,
now like all those actors are
yeah,
huge.
yeah. And any man that says that they didn't cry in that movie is a liar. That is one movie that every single time when Bruce Willis is giving that speech, and then it cuts back to I forget his name, but he just starts like it hits him and he cries. There's that moment I'm like, God damn it, I can't help it. It's just the broness is like, oh my God, you feel that moment. And I just don't feel that anymore. I don't get that in movies.
With the emotional stuff, I was thinking the same thing. Unless it's a movie you see on the title, you see it, oh, this is going to be a heartbreaker. In the old days, you'd have movies that had emotion in them that you didn't expect would
Hmm.
come out, and get you,
Yeah.
and that's the best stuff. One I recently saw that really hit me hard, no pun intended, but was the Iron Claw. Did you see that,
My friend, you and I are on the same wavelength.
dude? Like
I literally was just about to tell
being
you this is the last one that hit me hard.
being a brother myself,
Oh my God.
I'm about to lose it now. I lost it at that last scene, dude. Like it was so well done.
Hmm.
It was so perfect.
Hmm.
And what a heartbreaking story that it was real. But how nobody or anything in that movie got nominated for a single thing is beyond me.
It
It was
makes
so well done. Beautifully shot, well acted. I mean, I easily it's Zac Efron's best movie, I think.
100%.
Easily.
100%. What else would you
And
even add?
yeah, the
Like what? The High School
but
Musical?
yeah,
No.
exactly. But no, that movie was beautiful, and I saw it late. I didn't see it last year. I just barely saw it like 2 weeks ago, but man, it was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. My wife and I saw that. Um, she always gets very weary when I pick dramas because she knows those are my favorite ones, but she knows that they're my favorite ones for a reason because I need to feel.
Right.
I don't like dramas are my favorite. Yes, I love horror. I'm a horror fiend, but dramas all day. Any Gavin O'Connor movie, all day. I'll watch Gavin O'Connor movies all freaking day because those movies are raw and just great movies. But Iron Claw, that scene at the very end, not so much with the brothers because I'm an only child, but when he's watching his kids play
Yeah.
and he starts crying, I lost it. I'm probably going to lose it now just talking
Well, and
about it.
it's the first time he was allowed to cry
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
in like
I
the
I
movie. Like
lost it because I looked at her and I said, I know that feeling so well. Like that was just damn, dude. Like it was ugly crying too. Like it wasn't
mhm.
like that badass like single tear. Like
Yeah.
it was like,
It's like
oh, like a rib. Somebody hit me in the ribs. Oh,
yeah.
it sucks, man. Trying to be all
You feel the
tough.
burning up in
Yeah,
your sinus.
who farted? It's just terrible, dude. That movie was just beautifully acted. I mean, I got home and I immediately just started just Googling and trying to digest as much as I possibly could about the actual story. The fact that
Hmm.
there's another brother that they never even
Dude,
showed in the
yeah,
movie.
the movie could have been even more
Like,
devastating.
Jesus, my God, like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I think the emotional side, again, it goes back to the films always being an escape, a way to connect. And I think for me, I can't speak for you, but for me, like the absence of my dad, it allowed me to feel. It allowed me to connect to those people's emotions and those people's lives. And I fed off of that. So it essentially supplemented whatever was missing between
Mhm.
me and dad. And it's pretty cool to like realize it later on in life. Like I realized this a few years ago after I had my first daughter, um, because I had spoken to my father in like 20 something years, and I messaged him to let him know, hey man, you are a grandpa. Just want you to know, and if you ever want to meet her, let's do it. We had this whole meet, and I had to tell him that, hey, bro, no hard feelings. I never had any hard feelings towards you. I never had any feelings towards you, actually.
Yeah.
And I told him whatever happened between you and my family, I said, that's between you guys. I'm like, but me, I don't have any of that. I'm not looking for a relationship now, but listen, bro, like, I just need you to know that I never had these ill feelings towards you. And I actually understood why he left, because I said to myself, had I been in his same shoes, I don't think I'd be the father I am today, you know? And it is what it is. But anyways, um, so yeah, those feelings that I get, it's why I gravitate towards like really bleak endings. I think like those hard gut punches are like, I need that. I feed off of that. The Mist. Everybody hates The Mist because of the ending. Love it. It's
Love
so
the ending.
sad, so depressing. And it's what makes the movie work, because life isn't always pretty. Life isn't, it's sometimes it is that. Eden Lake is another one. I don't know if you've ever seen Eden Lake, but
I haven't seen that one.
oh man, you need to watch that. That's a rough one. Solid movie. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you are when it comes to like what your favorite genre is. I mean, you love Die Hard. I know that much. I've seen the socials. He loves Die Hard. My God, he doesn't
Yeah.
stop talking about Die Hard. It's You would think it's still
It's
Christmas.
no, just before I go that direction, I just want to play off what you said about the emotional oomph at the end of movies that really kind of tie a bow on these great movies. And some of my favorites are like Braveheart. Such a powerful ending,
Yeah.
very emotional. That's one that makes me cry every time. Gladiator.
Oh
Um,
my God, dude.
one that's on the same level as those two that no one ever talks about is Last of the Mohicans.
Okay.
Have you seen that? That one is so good.
See, I saw that
And
too young, I think.
revisit it.
Yeah.
It's got one of the best scores ever created, and it's so good. But to answer your question about my favorite genres, yes, besides Die Hard, it's hard for me to put one at the top. I do pride myself in saying that 80s action is probably my favorite of
Yeah.
all time, and specifically 80s action for obvious reasons. Everything over the top, size, guns, explosions. Love that stuff.
Now, when you say over the
Um,
top, are you talking about Sylvester Stallone's over the top, or are you talking just over the top?
all of the above.
Okay. All right.
All of the above.
All right.
That's why The Expendables was my Avengers. When that came out,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Same.
more hyped for that than anything.
Same. I was
Um,
geeking hard.
it's
And
I dragged my wife to that, and she suffered through it, but
oh,
I was in heaven.
and like I don't remember who I saw that with, but I always like, especially with those movies, when you see those little Easter eggs and you get it. You're like, oh my God, that's because of this movie. And then you want to tell the
Yes.
person that you're with, but they don't give two shits about it.
No,
It's like,
that's the
oh
worst.
God, you insufferable human. Like, if you just knew what you're witnessing, you ungrateful freaking
100%.
swine. Oh man.
100%, man. I'm also a big horror fan, and that's funny because my dad was never into horror really. He loved the classic horrors, like the classic Universal
Mhm.
monsters, but he never really got into the 80s horror and beyond. So that was kind of a newly discovered genre that I fell in love with. Um, but I think the reason Predator is my favorite movie of all time, it's because it's my three favorite genres all in one.
Yeah.
80s action, horror, and sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly blended. Like you couldn't it easily fits in each one of those
Mhm.
categories, but it's so unique because of the way it was. And there's been a lot of movies that have tried to copy it, but they just don't have that exact special mix. You know what I mean?
I mean, the movie, it's so weird, but it's perfect. Like, it's just a perfect movie. There's nothing that I would say, I wish they did this. I wish they did that. Am I talking about it from a technical standpoint, or is it just straight up nostalgia? You know, that's the reality. But even when I watch it now, I wouldn't change a thing. I can see other movies and go, yeah, that's a little dated. That one's a little, like I can watch, what is it? Commando. And
Yeah.
as much as I loved Commando as a kid, there's a lot wrong with Commando.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the boom mic when he's holding the dude up from the leg is fantastic. I absolutely
Right.
love that.
Right.
But there's a lot wrong. Predator, nothing. You hear the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, it's just like, oh my God. Also, can we talk about how that's basically Back to the Future? That
Oh yeah.
that soundtrack score
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it's the same. I mean,
It is. I never thought about that. It is pretty very similar.
Back to the
Yeah.
Future and Predator have the same dun 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 dun
That's
dun
right.
dun dun. Yeah, it's the
It
same,
does.
and it
That's funny.
that annoys me to an extent. But I mean, that movie is perfection. It's there's nothing wrong with it.
And like you said, with it's timeless because there might be a few things, but overall, it's so well done that it holds up. Like nothing stands out as being painfully outdated.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the only thing that I will say that stands out, I love it. It's cheese, but it's the catchphrases. Knock knock.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like one every scene.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like those parts, but that was literally in just one scene of the whole movie. Like that was in the in where they come into the village and they go nuts.
right.
But other than that, there's nothing else. There's a couple of lines that Jesse Ventura says, you know, in the chopper where I'm like, you might want to calm down there, Jesse. Sexual
Yeah,
tyrannosaurus. Um,
right, right.
but other than that, like, God, man, that movie lives rent free in my head. I know every beat of that movie, like fluctuations and the
Hmm.
pitch. That's the movie that taught me how to do the Arnold voice. The
Nice.
no, yeah, I'm not gonna do it now because I'd have to do it
Right.
really loud. But the get to the chopper, go, like that whole thing. Like I
Yeah,
learned it from there, and I was able to to this day impress my friends when they're like, do Arnold," and I'll do
that's
those.
awesome.
But man, the movie's fantastic.
One funny thing about Predator 2 is it's such a unique situation. When they made it, they actually got to pause halfway through production for a long period of time
Mhm.
and pivot. So it's very likely had they just stayed on schedule and on budget, it would have been a piece of crap movie.
With Jean Claude Van Damme,
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy that just things timed out that way and it just fell into place perfectly.
But the fact
It's like
that
those videos. It's like those videos where people are dropping stuff and it slides perfectly into a random
yeah,
slot. It's like,
yeah. I mean, same thing happened with Back to the Future. You know,
right,
um,
that's right.
same exact thing. It's
With
probably
Michael J. Fox and
yeah.
what's his name, the redhead guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
You know
Irrelevant.
I'm talking about.
Irrelevant. So, Predator. Okay. So now let's, well, before I do that, is there any movie that you can't watch anymore? Is there a movie that it just doesn't permit you, or is there a movie that you're hesitant to watch because of what it brings in terms of like emotion? Like, is it a painful reminder of something, or is there any movie like that you go, I just can't see that anymore?
For a long time, it's not the case anymore, but E.T. was that movie for me because as a kid, the first time I saw E.T., it traumatized me so badly. And it wasn't the alien wasn't scary, it was the almost dying and all the tubes and pokes and needles. For some reason, that just really upset me as a child, and it probably took me till my mid-20s to actually go back and watch it, and it wasn't because I was afraid to watch it, I always had that whenever people say E.T., I think, "Oh, man, it's got that awful scene in there," you know?
Hmm.
That aside, not really. I mean, there's movies that I'll see once in the theater and be like, "That was great," but yeah, I don't ever need to see that again. I can't think of actually, you know what one I can think of that is like that? I think everybody should see it once at least, but it is a hard watch. The Fault in Our Stars. It's an ugly cry the whole movie
Oh,
watch.
really? Is that the
Yeah,
one about cancer?
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I did see it. I don't, but I think I
It's
would
it's
remember that.
uh it's got what's his name from Baby Driver? Um Ansel Elgort and Shailene Woodley. It's really good, but it's tough. I would almost say if you have anyone who's bought that disease, maybe just don't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a good experience for people who have no idea what it's like to deal with someone who's suffering with it because it kind of opens your eyes,
Yeah.
gives you a perspective. That was
I'll have
dark. Sorry.
no, no, that's wow, this it is, it's life. Is there a movie that I mean, you know your wife well. Is there a movie that you would never dare show her? That
Oh,
hey baby, you're not I'm not subjecting you to this.
um, a lot. There's too many to name. My wife loves movies. In fact, that was my favorite things about her when we were dating. We'd go to movies, 3 movies a week in the theater sometimes. But she has to have a happy ending. She won't if there's not a happy ending and I knew there wasn't a happy ending, she will be mad at me.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like there was one experience, you know the movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah.
Great movie, great performance. I dragged her to that when we were dating, and the whole time she kept asking me, "Does this have a happy ending?" And I was like, "Just watch, just watch." She got really mad and she was like, "From now on, you have to tell me if it has a happy ending because if it doesn't, I don't even want to be a part of it."
Wow. That's tough because that's a
It's
risky
tough.
you never really know.
And it only applies to movies that I know if they end. Like sometimes we'll go to a movie blind
Yeah.
and it won't have a happy ending and I'll think to myself, well, she's gonna hate this one.
Yeah. So
But
so because like my wife, she never watched movies, and because I do love horror movies, I have treated her the same way that I think it sounds wrong, but I'm treating her the same way that I'm going to be treating my children in terms of like when they watch these movies, to watch properly before upgrading to the next thing, right? The next tier in certain
right.
things. So when we first started,
Kinda ease them in, right? Ease
yeah,
them in.
yeah. So like we moved pretty fast in the relationship. By like really fast, I mean I asked her out. 30 days later, I proposed to her. 6 months later, we got married.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And then a year later, we had a
That's fast.
baby. So it's fast. So there wasn't much. I can't say while we were dating because we really didn't date for more than 5 months. But she was like very apprehensive at first about like the horror movies. And I said, listen, like we'll watch some that are like kind of get a feel for, and like we'll get to these points, but there's certain movies that I'm never going to show you. I told her, I was like, I'll never show you a Serbian film. I'll never show you Human Centipede 2. Like you don't need to watch those. But there are other movies that are, you know because a lot of these movies, like especially like I think we talked about this in a DM, but there was a specific movie that was sent to you. We won't mention the name, but the movie is filth. It's just a snuff film essentially.
Right.
It's a director's wet dream to be a sick pervert and put it out there. And there's an
Yeah,
audience for it, which is even more terrifying, if I'm being honest.
absolutely.
And I love gore as much as the next person, but I also know the difference between Terrifier 2 and like Pennywise the Clown. Like there's two
Right.
different types, right? Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to the point where it's like it's not scary because it's so absurd. Like my wife watched Terrifier 2 and she's like, this is so stupid because
Right.
it's I mean it's so hyper realistic. It's like it's insane. Um but yeah, so I have these certain movies that I don't show her, but I kind of failed when we were expecting our first. She
Oh
was,
no.
I want to say this was September, August or September of 2018, and we had our daughter February of 2019. So she was pretty prego at that point. And I was like, I have this French film. It's called Inside, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that wasn't a smart move. Was not a smart move at all. I mean, she had some serious nightmares after that. Um, not because, not that like, I mean, it's horrifying because she's pregnant. And if you haven't seen the movie Inside, it's about a pregnant woman who basically is fighting for her life to save her unborn child from this woman who literally wants to take it out of her. That's the premise of the movie.
Okay.
Um, And I think what happened was my daughter definitely absorbed all of that because my daughter, if she dreams, my wife's dreams essentially, like it's all connected. So whatever the feeling was, whatever that like adrenaline she had, that energy fed into my little one and it created like this craziness for months. And then we went and saw the Suspiria remake, not even like 2 months later. I think it was in October of 2018. Excuse me. And I hadn't seen that when it was in the theaters, so I obviously didn't have a grasp as to how
Right.
intense it was going to be. And at one point in the theater, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this was a mistake. I looked at her and I said, "Are you okay?" She's like, "I'm fine. I'm fine." And because it is an intense movie, it's just, that remake is pretty wild,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
unexpectedly. Um, and we left that, and I just had a very feeling because that's how the movie made me feel. I'm like, I can't even imagine how my wife feels. Like emotions times 1,000 enhanced, you know. And what's funny is that my daughter Aria, my firstborn, she loves horror. She loves to be scared, and I'm like, I wonder why. Because your father made mommy watch 31 Nights of Horror for the month of
While you were
October
pregnant.
while she was pregnant with you. Like I see it. I see the cause and effect, you know. So movies are very powerful. What's your favorite theatrical experience?
Favorite theatrical experience? Oh, that's tough. Let me think. That's a tough question. I love my theatrical experience for Inception was pretty amazing. Um, that ending, I went and saw that with my wife when we were dating for the first time we saw it in theaters. We went and saw that movie like 6 times because we kept talking about the ending, about the top tipping over, and we had all these different theories, and it's the beauty of that movie is there's so much ambiguity
Yeah,
and little clues throughout the movie that just kinda keep you going, keep you wondering, keep you thinking,
yeah.
and when movies do that, I love it.
You think he got out or he's still in?
It wasn't until recently, for the longest time, I thought he got out. Um, but it wasn't until recently I heard an interview with Christopher Nolan, and he didn't explain the ending. He just said, "All that matters in that moment is that he doesn't care if
Mhm.
it's real or not
Yeah,
anymore because he's with his kids." And that made me I was like, "Dude, that's it right there.
yeah,
He's with his kids, and if it's real or not, doesn't matter. He doesn't care."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always thought that I personally thought it was very obvious that he didn't get out because you see it like almost like fall, but it like flicks back up and it keeps going.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, he's in that bitch. He's in there for life.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the beauty of the movie,
yeah,
dude, because they cut it at the exact perfect moment because it's like, is it
yeah,
just flicking or is it falling? Yeah, great.
bastards. My favorite was Independence Day. Um, completely sold out. This was a movie theater, a place called the Rockaway Mall in New Jersey. Back in the day, they had two theaters, one inside of the mall and then another one outside of the mall. And we went inside of the mall to try to see it. Sold out. And they said there might be a few seats available in the one outside. So we had to drive. It was still within the mall area, but you had to drive. You couldn't
Right.
just run up there.
Right.
And we get there and it was sold out, but the guy sold us tickets and walk in, and this was 4th of July weekend. It
Right. Right.
was so exciting. I sat on the floor in the walkway with a bunch of other people. People were just sitting on the floor, and we all just sat there and like,
That's so cool.
I mean, it was nothing. Nobody had ever seen anything like this. Like this was like, you know, the White House blowing up, the Empire State Building. Like it looked insane at that time. It was like, holy crap! It's such an amazing
Oh, totally.
experience. That was just
That's
like,
awesome. You won't see that happening anytime soon. People
no,
sitting on the stairs.
no, like trying to get into a movie like that. I mean, the whole people were standing, and my mom was one of them that was standing. She didn't want to sit on the floor. She decided to stand in the back with like all the other people, but I'm there on the floor, like just like this, with my knees up to like my chest and just holding on. And dude sitting next to me, and if people had to walk by, but nobody left that theater. If you had to take a piss or whatever, you were holding it in because you were so like you didn't want to miss anything. And one of the
Right.
greatest presidential speeches ever made.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. By a fake president
yeah, yeah,
or a fictional
yeah,
president.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just we will not go quietly into the night. So good, so good. Well, Christian, I do appreciate your time, man. I didn't want to keep you too long because we're lucky no kids woke up in the making of this podcast on my end or your end. I didn't see any children running in the back,
Nope.
so
Nope.
you're good. But before we go, I need something from you. Okay, um, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Change my mind.
Change my mind. Oh, no wonder you told me not to prepare.
Otherwise, I know you'd have a whole printout. I could see you just wanting to like Google away, like, oh, I have a list here in my notes. Nope, change my mind.
Change your mind. You're serious, you're not just joking. Okay.
No,
Well, I mean, I've made dozens of videos
I
about this on
know.
my TikTok.
Trust me, I've seen them all. I've had them sent to
I
me.
don't think this is like arguing with your uncle who's in the other political party. Nobody's gonna win this argument.
It's not that serious. Oh my god.
My opinions are that most of the filmmakers say it is,
Mhm.
and it takes place during Christmas, blah blah, all the
Yeah,
stuff you've heard a million times.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, it's one of my favorite movies to watch during that time of the year.
yeah.
That's really when I do watch it, I just associate it with Christmas. That's the big takeaway for me.
Fair enough.
Honestly, and I really beat that dead horse on socials because it gets such a strong reaction from people.
It does.
And there's some of my most engaged videos, and I really lean into that sometimes, as you noticed.
Yeah, yeah. Dude,
So
everybody gets into that. It's so heated. Even still on Facebook, like I get notifications from a post I made years ago. It pops up
I
every
know,
year
right?
and they're like, "You asshole. You still feel the same?" Like, yeah. And they're always like, "Oh, so then if Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, then neither's Home Alone." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not. Home Alone isn't a
See,
Christmas movie. It's a home invasion movie that takes place during Christmas. That doesn't make it a Christmas movie, you know?"
right.
So then I always say the argument, it's like, well, if Showgirls took place during Christmas and, Jessie, we'll call her Jessie because that's how I know her as, Jessie met up with a Santa Claus who pimped her out and used a candy cane on her, does that make it a Christmas movie?
Right,
All the
right.
same elements that everybody says, but I just like to play devil's advocate. I enjoy it. I could care less if people think it is or it isn't. You know, I just know I'm right.
Right. No, I'm really honestly at the end of the day, I'm the same. Have fun with it.
Yeah, I definitely do too. Well, man, I appreciate you being here, dude. Taking the time. Anything you want to plug? Where can the kiddies
No, man,
find you?
I appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun. I'm on the socials, all of them. We got X as they call it now, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram is blowing up recently, which is kind of nice
Nice.
because TikTok isn't blowing up recently. But yeah, I'm on those platforms. The best way if you want to get a hold of me, either DM me on TikTok or X. Any of them. I'm pretty good at getting back to most people. So whatever, just look me up.
X sounds so weird. Just
So to this day,
yeah, hit me up on
it's
X. You know, like I'm gonna
yeah,
create a platform called Y. Someone else should do a Z and just
exactly.
join forces. It's my dad joke for the evening, guys.
And then you're like, I'm on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's it. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you again to Kristian for being here. You guys have a wonderful night. Till next time.